It's October 7th, 2012. A man walks into the Tate Modern Art Gallery and walks out having defaced a painting worth tens of millions of dollars in broad daylight. The painting was Mark Rothko's Black on Maroon, and on its left corner, it's written, "A potential piece of Yellowism," along with his signature with an ink pen, an action that he knew would be incredibly difficult to undo if even possible in the first place. But what seemed to be a sick joke or an extremist expression was nothing close to what you might first assume. This whole debacle leads down to many questions. What prompted him to do such a thing? What was so important as to warrant an act this extreme? What does the phrase he had used to deface the painting mean? What is Yellowism? In this deep dive, I'll explore the movement which is neither art or anti-art. The first thing you'll stumble upon when you try to find information on it is its page, which when you click into it will bring up its manifesto written by Marcin Ladaiga and our vandalizer Vladimir Umanets. Yellowism is not art or anti-art. Examples of Yellowism can look like works of art but are not works of art. We believe that the context for works of art is already art. The context for Yellowism is nothing but Yellowism. Confusing, right? But let's continue. In the context of Yellowism, all interpretations possible in the context of art are reduced to one, are equalized, flattened to yellow. Interpreting Yellowism as art or being about something other than just yellow deprives Yellowism of its only purpose. To understand what that means, we must define art. It is a creative exploration and expression. Every piece of art is intended to convey something, the artist's creativity, skill, messages, and it is to be appreciated for that. Unique pieces are valuable. They stand out because they work towards the enrichment of art itself through novel ideas. But unlike art, the whole premise behind Yellowism is the restriction to only one preconceived idea, which is Yellowism. There is no way to interpret, expand upon, and develop on this idea like you can do with art. Instead of freedom of expression, freedom from expression is explored. In a Q&A from 2011 with Marcin Ladaiga, he explains that the final message is done and context has been defined already. Yellowist pieces are yellowist because they exist only in the hermetic context of Yellowism. To put it in simpler terms, Yellowism is a context in which you see the art in. It is essentially an artificially curated form of expression. You can have one piece that can be viewed in two different contexts, one in a Yellowist lens and one through an artistic one. Its identity changes and the message that it conveys changes, and in our case, it conveys its own context, Yellowism. And a piece can either be one or the other and never be the both at the same time. Marcin also explained that art is a means to their aim. When you visit a Yellowist exhibition or look at a piece, you are not meant to understand the works for what they are, but see it as a part of a whole and the one meaning it tries to convey. The manifesto continues its explanation of prerequisites for a piece to be Yellowist. Yellowism can be presented only in Yellowist chambers. A Yellowist chamber is a closed room that cannot exist or be presented in an art gallery. A Yellowist chamber serves only to show pieces of Yellowism. Violet walls of a Yellowist chamber are the only neutral background for pieces of Yellowism. The condition doesn't hold much meaning in of itself, but what it does is enhances the context of Yellowism. It makes a Yellowist piece more Yellowist by making it so that Yellowism is exclusive to Yellowist chambers. It effectively creates a space where art does not exist and somewhat legitimizes pieces displayed in the chamber. Between 2010 and 2018, there has been 5 exhibitions and projects of Yellowism. Flattened to Yellow in November of 2010, All and Everything in March of 2011, the opening of the Carmen Cast Yellowist Chamber in May of 2011, No One Lives Forever in May of 2012, and the opening of the Carolina Krakova Yellowist Chamber on April of 2018. And moving on to the final part of the manifesto, there's no evolution of Yellowism, there is only its expansion. Art is forever developing, and in brackets, diverse whole, Yellowism is forever expanding, and in brackets, homogeneous mass. This elaborates on the point of Yellowism's single and unchanging meaning. Instead of growing through individual pieces that expand on the field using their own ideas, Yellowism expands by the collaborative effort of many pieces that work towards a single context. And going back to the vandalism of Black on Maroon, the risky publicity stunt that landed Umanet's 2 years in prison, and its message that he wrote, a potential piece of Yellowism, the message he wanted to convey was quite literal, keeping faithful to the manifesto. Although Black on Maroon is not a piece of Yellowism, under the right conditions, it could be. Umanet admits to his doings but rejects others' accusations that it was an act of vandalism. The public was rightfully outraged after this and immediately dismissed the niche, insignificant movement immediately. Umanet doubled down. He claims that he feels that he may have increased the value of the painting. Some people think I'm crazy or a vandal, but my intentions was not to destroy or decrease the value, he said. I am a Yellowist. I believe what I am doing, and I want people to start talking about this. It was like a platform. While not relieving him for his actions, this does show Umanet's dedication to his craft. But despite that, over the years, this bizarre case slowly drifted into obscurity after Umanet's stunt, failing to develop his ambitious vision of what it could have been. But maybe he saw something that none of us could, or maybe he had a few screws loose. However, what if he was right? Wesley Creedy's paper raises an interesting thought experiment: the institutionalization of Yellowism and the collective acceptance of it. This gives insight to what Umanet saw, where people could head to their local Yellowist chambers to see art pieces that they have seen before, but want to see it in a way that is rejuvenating by thinking about it in another context. He continues the hypothetical reality by addressing what this could mean for the definition of art, which I find very interesting. Long-standing, highly ingrained conventions such as art thus turns out to be quite fragile, capable of being nullified by the mere collective acceptance of arbitrarily defined institutional kinds. Yellowism questions the legitimacy of art itself and challenges its nature as something that has always been there to be indulged upon instead of a human invention that simply happened to be widely accepted. Nothing has challenged art in a way like Yellowism did. Everything prior has been done within the realm of art, an echo chamber, if you will. But none have thought of exploring beyond that, until Yellowism. The genius behind Yellowism comes from the conceptualization of a brand new context. The almost impossible task of putting it into practice was what killed it. And unfortunately, because of that, Yellowism will always be known as that one thing that pissed a lot of people off. If you made it till here, I hope it all made sense, and thank you for watching.